In case you have any savings left, they are about to get slashed in half. Joe Biden just proposed a 45% tax on capital gains, along with trillions in other tax hikes. That would be the highest rate in 111 years, which would ramp up the progressive gutting of our real economy. The Democrats have actually been pretty frank about using Washington's spending addiction to push for new taxes. Just last week, Biden proposed $7.3 trillion in spending, that's annual spending, along with $4.9 trillion of future tax hikes. According to my Heritage colleague Richard Stern, that works out to $36,000 in new taxes per family. Case you thought all those sweet little $60 billion nothings for Ukraine, or for illegal migrants for that matter, were free. For perspective, Trump's last pre-COVID year was $4.4 trillion in spending. He had bumped it 5%, a couple $100 billion in real terms from Obama, but Joe Biden wants nearly $3 trillion more, or a 70% hike. I personally will take 5% over 70% any day of the week. So yes, both parties spend like drunken sailors, but there's sailors and then there's pirates. A recent study from the Peterson Foundation tallied up the $4.9 trillion in new taxes. Most are carefully designed to hide the impact levied on corporate or capital gains or just high-income earners. Of course, every economist knows that corporate and capital gains are passed on to customers, workers, and shareholders' 401ks. While the history of income taxes shows that they use the rich to sell the tax, and then they immediately get to work redefining who is rich. To illustrate, when the income tax was first introduced in 1913, inflation adjusted, it only hit those making $100,000 a year at a 1% rate. And then the top rate of 6% hit once you made $15 million inflation adjusted. Now, of course, the income tax kicks in at minimum wage and tops out at 37% plus another 14% if you're in California. This shell game actually makes new taxes a lot more harmful because by hiding them, it makes for better headlines, but it means they are aimed directly at investment, which is the lifeblood of the economy. Without investment, forget growth. We can't even replace the factories and physical capital that wears out every year. So not only are you draining $5 trillion out of the real economy, you're taking it in the single most destructive way possible. You're pulling a tooth by going through the rectum. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. It's about to get tough out there for small businesses and investors caught in the crosshairs of a hungry federal government. Depending on your state income tax, you could pay north of 50% if you pass a family business on or sell it to retire. Note, capital gains doesn't make any allowance for inflation, meaning if your investments didn't grow at all, if it was all just inflation, you'll still pay 50%, even though you didn't make a penny. So far, Washington's spending addiction has mostly hit inflation. Now we are getting the other shoe to drop, gutting the real economy. If Biden gets his way, our capital gains tax will be almost double China's, while American companies would be at a tax disadvantage against not just China, but even Europe. In short, we're pawning the crown jewels to feed the addicts in Washington. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.